Sausages are supposed to be one of Australia's most beloved foods, right? The backbone of the democracy sausage, the star of the weekend barbecue, loaded with protein and that satisfying meaty flavour. Australians consume millions of kilograms of sausages every single year. We put them on bread at election polling stations. We throw them on the barbecue every weekend. We feed them to our kids as quick weeknight dinners. But here is the dirty secret the sausage industry does not want you to know. Most of the sausages sold in Australian supermarkets are not real meat, and I am not exaggerating. Independent testing has shown that up to 30% of the content in many supermarket sausages is just filler, mechanically separated meat paste, or heavily processed byproducts. You are paying for what you think is quality meat, but getting tubes stuffed with wheat flour, mystery meat slurry, and preservatives. The sausage on your plate might be only 50% actual lean meat, with the rest being fat, water, breadcrumbs, and chemicals you cannot even pronounce. I have spent months researching this, talking to butchers, reading laboratory reports, examining ingredient labels, and even sending samples for independent testing. What I discovered is absolutely shocking. The sausage industry is one of the most deceptive food industries in Australia, and consumers are getting absolutely ripped off. Major supermarket chains are selling you processed meat tubes and calling them premium sausages. Heritage Australian brands have been bought by multinational corporations and degraded into cheap industrial products. The marketing shows happy families at barbecues, but the reality is mechanically separated meat and chemical additives. By the end of this video, you will know exactly which brands to avoid and how to spot fake sausages. You will understand why that $9 pack of snags is so cheap and what you are actually consuming when you bite into these so-called sausages. Number 10, Aldi barbecue sausages. Let's start with Aldi's house brand. At around $8.99 for 24 sausages, it seems like incredible value. But here's the problem. These sausages are a 3-meat blend of beef, lamb, and chicken, and the label doesn't specify the ratios. When a sausage contains multiple meats without clear percentages, it's a massive red flag. It means they're using whatever's cheapest at the time and mixing it together to hit a price point. I've bought these sausages multiple times and they've tasted different every single time. The meat content is completely unspecified on the label. Unlike Woolworths and Coles, which at least tell you the meat percentage, Aldi keeps it deliberately vague. This usually means the meat content is at the bare minimum legal requirement, which in Australia is just 50% fat-free meat flesh. The texture is wrong too. Aldi sausages are disturbingly smooth and paste-like, which suggests heavy use of mechanically separated meat. Mechanically separated meat is meat that has been blasted off bones with high-pressure machines, creating a slurry that includes connective tissue and trace bone fragments. When you cook these on the barbecue, they release almost no fat, which means they're packed with water-absorbing fillers like wheat flour and rice. You're not eating meat, you're eating bread tubes with meat flavouring. Number 9, Coles barbecue beef sausages. Coles house brand beef sausages cost around $10 for 22 sausages, making them the most expensive per sausage among major supermarkets. According to independent testing by Choice magazine, Coles sausages contain only 70% meat, the bare minimum you can legally have. The other 30% is fillers, water, and additives. That 70% includes fat, so actual lean meat drops to around 55%. The sodium content is outrageous. At 750 milligrams per 100 grams, these have the highest sodium levels among major brands because manufacturers use excessive salt to mask the bland taste of fillers. I did a simple fridge test with Coles sausages. Real sausages with proper fat content should firm up when cold. These stayed completely soft, indicating they are loaded with wheat-based rusk and starches that do not solidify. The ingredient list reads like a chemistry experiment. Beef, water, wheat flour, rice flour, salt, mineral salts, preservatives, antioxidants, hydrolyzed vegetable protein, and flavor enhancers. For $10, you are buying an industrial food product with marketing that makes you think it is premium Australian beef. Number 8. Woolworths thin barbecue sausages. Woolworths won a Choice magazine taste test, and that success was heavily marketed on the package. But winning a taste test does not mean quality meat. It just means it tastes good with enough salt and flavour enhancers. At $9.60 for 24 sausages, the meat content is 73%, which means 27% of what you are eating is not meat. These use a 3-meat blend of beef, lamb and chicken with unspecified ratios, so you have no idea what you're actually eating. One batch might be mostly beef, the next heavy on cheaper chicken. The preservatives levels are concerning. These contain sulfites approaching the legal maximum of 500 milligrams per kilogram. Sulfites extend shelf life and prevent grey meat, but can cause reactions in sensitive individuals. Woolworths sausages have unusually long use-by dates, sometimes 3 weeks from purchase. Real fresh meat does not last that long without heavy preservatives. The thin profile is also deceptive. Thin sausages allow manufacturers to hide quality issues because the smaller diameter means you do not notice the mushy texture and lack of meat structure as much. Number 7. D'Orsogna Continental Sausages. D'Orsogna markets itself as premium Italian Australian with over 70 years of tradition. At around $12 for 500 grams, you are paying significantly more than house brands. Despite Italian branding and the higher price, D'Orsogna sausages are mass-produced using the same techniques as budget brands. Their standard continental sausages contain significant mechanically separated chicken, information that is not disclosed prominently. Mechanically separated meat is industrial waste recovery, creating a paste that can include muscle, connective tissue, nerves, and trace bone. The texture gives it away. D'Orsogna sausages have that distinctive smooth, emulsified texture, indicating heavy processing. Real artisanal Italian sausages should have visible fat chunks and a coarser grind. The flavour relies on added smoke flavouring and spice extracts rather than natural ingredients. You are paying for Italian heritage marketing while eating mass-produced sausages that are indistinguishable from cheap brands. Number 6. Don Small Goods Barbecue Sausages. Don is one of Australia's most recognised brands, known for the famous tagline, "Is Don, is good." But Don has not been Australian owned since 1988. It is now owned by George Weston Foods, a British multinational subsidiary, and production focuses on volume and cost cutting. At $11 for 1 kilogram, Don's meat content is deliberately vague. Unlike their small goods range, barbecue sausages often just list meat, with no type or percentage clarity. Don sources from multiple international suppliers, including European Union countries. The vague sourcing means you do not know if you are getting Australian meat or the cheapest imported option. I have bought Don sausages 3 times in 6 months, and each pack tasted different. That inconsistent quality is unacceptable for such a heritage brand. The ingredient list includes multiple preservatives, flavour enhancers such as hydrolyzed vegetable protein, and sweeteners used to balance excessive salt. Don is trading on brand recognition from decades ago when they were Australian-owned and quality-focused. Number 5. Primo Thin Sausages. Primo is another heritage brand, mass-produced into mediocrity. At $10.50 for 1 kilogram, competitive pricing means competitive cost cutting. The thin profile is a cost-saving measure with less meat per sausage and faster production. The meat content is 70 to 75%, meaning up to 30% filler, including wheat flour, rice flour, and starches. Allergen warnings confirm heavy wheat content. Primo sausages are uniformly pinkish red, suggesting colour fixatives and preservatives. I cooked a pack and they released almost no natural fat, staying plump and firm. That indicates water and filler absorption rather than actual meat. Real sausages shrink as fat renders out. Primo also uses collagen casings instead of natural casings, another cost-cutting measure that degrades the product. Number 4. Hans Continental Franks. Hans markets their Continental Franks as premium European style at $14 for 500 grams. The ingredient list is extensive. Pork, mechanically separated chicken, water, potato starch, salt, dextrose, mineral salts, preservatives, antioxidants, thickeners, smoke flavouring, and spice extracts. The use of mechanically separated chicken is deceptive when the product is marketed as pork franks in a European tradition. The smoke flavour is artificial liquid smoke, not traditional natural smoking. The texture is smooth and emulsified, rather than firm with visible fat marbling. For $14, you are paying for European marketing applied to mass-produced industrial sausages. Number 3. Bertocchi Small Goods Traditional Sausages. Bertocchi is marketed as premium Italian Australian, priced at $13 for 500 grams. Their traditional sausages list pork, beef, chicken, wheat flour, tapioca starch, soy protein, salt, preservatives, antioxidants, and flavour enhancers. That is not traditional Italian, which uses only pork, salt, and spices. The use of soy protein is a cheap binder that absorbs water and creates texture. The meat-to-fat ratio is wrong too. Real Italian sausages have visible fat chunks and a coarse grind. Bertocchi sausages are finely ground and uniform with emulsified fat. An Italian butcher I spoke to explained that authentic sausage making uses whole cuts with natural fat, minimal spicing, and natural casings. Bertocchi uses none of these traditional methods. Number 2. British Sausage Company Premium Range. The British Sausage Company markets their premium range as authentic British bangers at $15 for 600 grams. They advertise 80 to 85% meat content, which sounds above average, but that figure includes significant mechanically separated pork that is not prominently disclosed. The casings are artificial collagen, not natural intestine, and that undermines the authentic banger experience. The flavour relies on excessive rusk and breadcrumbs to absorb water and bulk out the product, rather than providing traditional texture. Many varieties contain added sugar to balance salt, because the meat flavour is insufficient. I cooked these alongside actual British butcher sausages, and the difference was embarrassing. The butcher sausages had irregular texture, visible fat, natural casings, and complex flavour. The British Sausage Company product was smooth, uniform, and tasted primarily of salt and breadcrumbs. Number 1. 4 and 20 sausage rolls. 4 and 20 sausage rolls generate over $100 million annually and are everywhere in Australia. The meat content is shockingly low, around 25 to 30%. The rest is pastry, fillers, mechanically separated meat, and extensive additives. The ingredient list includes wheat flour, water, beef, pork, mechanically separated chicken, vegetable oil, breadcrumbs, textured soy protein, salt, sugar, dextrose, mineral salts, preservatives, antioxidants, emulsifiers, thickeners, colours, and flavour enhancers. The use of mechanically separated chicken in beef and pork sausage rolls is deceptive. The texture is smooth, a uniform paste rather than real sausage meat with fibres and fat. A single sausage roll contains over 600 milligrams of sodium, more than 25% of the daily recommended intake. These are marketed to kids and sold in school canteens, but they are ultra-processed junk food with minimal nutritional value. What you should know about the sausage industry. Here is what you need to understand about how this industry really works. The Australian sausage industry operates on razor-thin profit margins and faces intense competition between manufacturers. Major supermarket chains like Woolworths and Coles demand the lowest possible prices from their suppliers, which forces manufacturers to cut costs wherever they possibly can. Those cost cuts do not come from improved efficiency or better logistics. They come from using cheaper meats, adding massive amounts of fillers, using mechanically separated meat paste, and loading products with water, salt, and preservatives to bulk them out and extend shelf life. Food Standards Australia-New Zealand sets minimum standards for sausages, but those standards are shockingly low and heavily favour manufacturers over consumers. Sausages only need to be 50% fat-free meat flesh, which sounds acceptable until you realise that definition can include fat, connective tissue, blood vessels, and water-absorbing additives. The actual lean meat content in budget supermarket sausages can be as low as 30 to 40% once you account for all the fat and fillers. The rest is wheat flour, rice flour, water, and chemicals. Manufacturers exploit labelling loopholes systematically. When a package claims 70% meat, that percentage can include all the fat. So a sausage labelled 70% meat might only be 50% actual lean meat once you subtract the fat listed in the nutrition panel. When they use 3 meat blends of beef, lamb, and chicken without specifying exact ratios, they can vary the mix based on whatever protein source is cheapest that week. One batch might be 50% beef, 30% lamb, 20% chicken. The next batch could be 20% beef, 20% lamb, 60% chicken. You have zero consistency. When producers use vague sourcing statements like made from local and imported ingredients or sourced from multiple origins, you have no reliable idea where your meat actually comes from. It could be Australian beef one week and imported pork trimmings the next. Heritage branding is particularly deceptive. Brands like Don, Bertocchi, Primo, and Dorsogne were once family-owned Australian companies genuinely committed to traditional methods. They have been systematically bought out by large multinational food corporations that prioritise quarterly profits over product quality. The brand names remain on the packages specifically to exploit consumer loyalty and trust built over decades. You are often buying a nostalgic brand name attached to an inferior modern product. So what should you buy? Here are the sausage brands and sauces actually worth your money if you want real meat instead of industrial filler tubes. Number 1, local butcher-made sausages. This is absolutely the best option if you want genuine quality. Find a reputable independent butcher in your local area who makes sausages fresh in-house daily. You will pay between $15 and $20 per kilogram instead of $8 to $12 per kilogram at the supermarket. But you are getting dramatically better value for several reasons. First, you are getting real meat with minimal fillers, usually just a small amount of breadcrumb for traditional texture. Second, the butcher can tell you exactly what is in the sausages, where the meat comes from, and what spices are used. Third, the meat is genuinely fresh, not sitting in distribution warehouses for weeks. Fourth, you are supporting local Australian businesses instead of multinational corporations that extract profits overseas. Ask your butcher about their sausage making process, request to see their ingredient lists, and try different varieties to find what you like. A good butcher will be proud to explain their methods and ingredients. Number 2, Andrew's Choice Continental Sausages. Andrew's is a Victorian family company that has remained fiercely independent despite buyout offers from major corporations. Their cheese Kransky won awards for best sausage in Australia multiple times over the past decades, and they have maintained those quality standards consistently. At around $18 per kilogram, they are definitely premium priced compared to supermarket options, but the difference is immediately obvious when you cook and eat them. The meat content is genuine high-quality pork, the cheese is actual aged cheddar, and the spices are real rather than artificial flavor extracts. The texture has visible fat marbling and proper meat structure instead of emulsified paste. These are what sausages should actually taste like. Use them for special occasions, weekend barbecues, or when you want to actually taste quality meat. Number 3, the Gourmet Sausage Company and similar artisanal producers. These are small batch specialty producers making genuinely artisanal sausages with traditional methods and premium ingredients. They are expensive at $20 to $25 per kilogram, but you absolutely get what you pay for. Quality meat cuts, natural casings, zero fillers, and authentic flavor profiles. The Gourmet Sausage Company operates in small batches with strict quality control, uses only Australian meat from known suppliers, and creates interesting flavor combinations using real ingredients rather than chemical flavorings. These are sausages you serve to guests when you want to impress, or when you are treating yourself to actual food rather than processed industrial product. Look for similar small producers at farmers markets, specialty food stores, or direct from their websites. The higher price reflects actual quality ingredients and traditional craft, not just marketing. If this video shocked you and opened your eyes to the sausage scam, smash that like button. Share this with your family, friends, and barbecue buddies because most Australians have no idea what they are actually eating. Subscribe to the channel because I am exposing more food industry frauds. Hit that bell icon so you do not miss the next video. Drop a comment below telling me which brand surprised you most. I read every comment and love hearing from you. Together, we are going to hold these companies accountable and stop getting ripped off. Thanks for watching.